Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We hope you're keeping very, very safe and well. Thank you so much for joining us as we are here to build up to Brentford to come. Yes, just 2 Premier League games left of the season. I can hear the applause, the cheers in the background, even occasionally the laughter track as to what this season had. So much hope. And yet, here we are. If you're listening to us for the first time, we'll find us on iTunes. We're on Spotify. We're across all major audio platforms. We're, of course, on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook and Instagram too. Isn't it so interesting that during a summit of a crisis, there's almost a gathering, a queue to come on Last Word on Spurs. So I'll do the intros very quickly. We'll go straight into this one. Joining me back on the show, we've got the wonderful Lee McQueen, the crazy train instructor, conductor back in the house. Joining Lee, we've got Patrick Tyrant back on Last Word on Spurs, a regular he's become in these last couple of months for his sins, what this club is doing to us all right now. Pat defending us on every social media platform possible and Sharon at the moment. Joining Lee, joining Pat. We've got a bit of a music vibe going on tonight. We're welcoming back the wonderful Jess Iszatt to Last Word on Spurs and making his debut to the show. A man that contacted me, I want to say about a couple of months ago, when I think there was still a bit more to play for at the time, but such is the nature of Tottenham, that quickly did fall apart. We've got Chris Ostler from Black Honey UK making his debut tonight. We'll get a lot more from him and everything music vibe coming up. But let's get into this show. Lee McQueen messaged me midday today and said, Rick, I've got to come on. I've got to give my say as to what's happening on Tottenham right now. He's been off recently. Many would say, as he decided to go off, have I banned him? Neither. He's been on a well-earned break. The man doesn't stop working. But Lee, bud, love to be back on Last Word on Spurs. I have to get your thoughts. I wanted to ban myself the way it's been going. I've got to get your thoughts firstly, mate, if I can. Just on Villa in general, the vibe of that game since, of course, the Torre campaign continuing for Tottenham. Failing, of course, to register a shot on target in the first half. Villa, of course, going in front early on. And that result, of course, means that Villa are now level on points with Spurs, who only remain above them due to a marginally superior goal difference, which is incredible when you do consider Villa were in the relegation zone at the point, I believe, of Emery taking over. And they're level on points with Tottenham, who were, of course, in the top 4 under Conte. And it all looked like everything was going to plan.
It's absolutely mental, isn't it? Right, Blue Book is back. It is back with a vengeance. And actually, Aston Villa was 17th when Unai Emery took over, and Tottenham were 3rd. It's just an absolute. If we had an emoji on screen now, we'd have the one with the blowing your mind, wouldn't you? You know, that little emoji thing. It's an absolute mess. The Villa game again. I don't actually like saying, "Oh, I said this" or "I said that" or whatever, but. We was on the WhatsApp group, as we do before the game, and the team comes out. And I think it was 4 minutes before kickoff. I wrote these exact words on the WhatsApp group. I said, we're going to start, Villa are going to start like a rocket. And I had a little rocket emoji. I said, we're shit ourselves, excuse my language for the younger viewers. And within 10 minutes, we'll go a goal down. But I did call it to be Ollie Watkins. And what happened? Exactly all of that, apart from the goal score, was different. And within 8 minutes, we went down 1-0. I mean, it's so obvious. I know that you've done a pre-show on a post-match show on Villa already, but it's just, I actually think that was one of our worst. I mean, there's so many. You forget, don't you, team? Don't you? Viewers and listeners, you forget. But I actually think that was one of the worst performances we've actually had this season. I thought we were lackluster. I thought we didn't know how to run in a straight line. How many times we was offside? I don't know, 5 or 6, something like that. It was infuriating, absolutely infuriating. And look, the only good thing that came out of it is Kane scored another goal. Was it or wasn't it a penalty? Who cares? He's got 27 Premier League goals, which is absolutely phenomenal. And I just feel that you know, the team, the vibe, everything about it. I mean, Mason, that was a proper audition, wasn't it? Rick, you build it as an audition. That was a proper audition for him as well, and he failed. Just like the club do in semi-finals, just like the club do in finals, and just like the club do in making decisions about our next manager, who, by the way, what we're on 51 days now, team, still no manager. I mean, honestly, this is absolute bonkers. And I'm reading today, I swear they do it to wind us up. I'm reading today that Eric Dyer is about to sign a new 3-year deal. How is that possible? We've got no manager, we've got no director of football, and with greatest respect, Eric, and I know you and your people watch the show and stuff. You haven't really done a fantastic season, have you, this season, to get a new contract. So that's by the by. If a club's offering you one, you probably take it, didn't you? But how are they offering one, Rick? What is happening here?
Can I also add to that, Lee, that we also read this evening that Oliver Skipp is in line for a promotion into the club's leadership group. I find that utterly bizarre, given the fact we've got no manager there. Who's making these decisions? It's just mad, isn't it?
Oh, do you want to come and be promoted into my leadership group? Get a grip, will ya? Honestly, I'm not on here to become Arsenal Fan TV or something, but it is getting to that point where you're just literally, you don't know how to react anymore. A promotion they're doing it on purpose. They are literally, they're trolling us, mate. I think our own club is trolling the fans. It's
mad.
Unbelievable.
Pat, can I come over to you and then we go to Jess and Chris? Pat, look, I mean, the game at the weekend was a huge game for both sides in the race for a European place. And of course, the last thing Tottenham needed to do was concede an early goal. But that has become a factor in frequency over the last couple of weeks. We've got to say, Newcastle, of course, hit us for 6. A week later, we found ourselves 3 goals down to Liverpool inside 15 minutes. And it's, again, where we are right now, 3 away games in a row that Tottenham now conceded first with barely any real sense of time on the clock. We have to find a way, Pat, don't we, in terms of these final 2 remaining games to stop the rot in terms of starting games a lot faster than what we're doing at the moment.
Indeed. So, yeah, first and foremost, good evening, good night, good afternoon, good morning to everyone listening on the audios.
You're trying to send us to bed already, Pat. I don't blame you. We don't want to talk about Tottenham. I don't blame you either.
Yeah, see you later, I'm gone. But no, I said it on the post-match reaction show. It's not a coincidence that all these teams start so brightly and like a rocket against us, because they know we got such a soft underbelly. They know defensively we're so poor, and we're just there for the taking. We're feeble. We're like lambs for the slaughter. We're so meek. And yeah, Aston Villa started like a rocket on fire. And like Lee said, other than Ollie Watkins not being the goal scorer, it was inevitable that they was going to score an early goal. And it was such an obvious. I mean, the goals that we're conceding are a schoolboy. They're like, it's not even like if you get outdone by a good bit of skill or something happens, you say, you know what, I'll take my hat off to you. Brilliant goal or brilliant passage of play. But it's just easy, predictable moments. Go down the wing, pass it across the goal, cut in front of the defender and get a goal. And yeah, we're just so poor, man. And it was, and I said it on the post-match reaction show, without repeating myself, it just goes to show where we're at as a club when Unai Emery, I mean, every time we play a game, we're getting out-coached and outdone by the better manager, the more experienced manager. And that's no disrespect to Ryan Mason, because I did said on the Sunday show, I do think he will go on to be a decent manager. But why has he been thrown into the deep end when we still had so much to play for? And every manager has our number. Every manager knows how to set up against us. We're so predictable. We're so lackluster. It's pass the ball side to side to side, back to the goalkeeper, try and go down the wing. That doesn't work. Go back to the goalkeeper. There's nothing there to really, yeah, they were just, it's a lot. It's a lot. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. We've got 2 tough games. Brentford are going to be up for it. They're trying to get in front of us. We're a big scalp, regardless of how poor we are. Everyone wants to, obviously beat us because we are a big team, and we're there for the taking. And then Leeds are fighting for their lives, and it's gonna go down to the wire. And unfortunately, we've got them away from home, and that's going to be a cauldron. And I don't know.
Definitely losing against Leeds. Sorry
yeah,
to interrupt.
That Leeds. Look how spirited they were against Newcastle. And if it wasn't for is Lee frozen?
He looks like a Picasso, doesn't he? Quite literally.
It's a work of art. It's just like, but yeah, Leeds should have beat Newcastle, if I'm being honest. And Newcastle are a good team. And yeah, the thing is, these teams are there for the taking as well. But I just haven't seen a spirited top. I've seen decent displays after we go a few goals down. So, but in all reality, it's too late. It's too little, too late. And yeah, I know we're going to get into it, but it's just, I hate watching Tottenham at the moment. I honestly do. I hate the club. I hate everything about it. Obviously, I love Harry Kane and Heung-min Son. But other than that, I flipping hate this club. I can't lie. I just hate what we've become. And I'm seeing stuff, and yeah, I just don't know. I'm almost at my wit's end. Like, I almost didn't renew my season ticket. I did in the end because I couldn't lose my ticket and I still love the club. But I was so close to not renewing it. And for me to be at that
It
stage,
shows you how far they've taken you, Pat.
yeah,
To that
like
point.
it's just
Yeah.
there's nothing to be excited about right now. And I don't want to sound morbid. I'm a positive guy. I love my club. I really want us to do well. But please, someone in the comments tell me what there is to be excited about right now, because I can't think of anything.
Jess, let me come round to you. Absolute pleasure to have you back on Last Word on Spurs. It really, really is. I know, obviously, the last time you were on, I had to apologise in advance for the crisis that you came onto, which you found yourself in. And here we are, I think, less than 2 months, and it's got incredibly even worse since your debut to the show. Who knew? Who knew what was coming our way? Just give me your thoughts. I mean, Pat says there, really an impassioned, what I would say, speech as to how this club is really mentally destroying a lot of fans. And I say this again, that, football for many is an escapism from life, the day-to-day chores and what life throws at you. It's meant to be 95 and a bit minutes away from life in general to be able to have some enjoyment. And right now, with where we are with the club, no manager, no director of football, and here we are, really with nothing to play for to some degree towards the end of this season. Can you see any light at the end of this dark tunnel at the moment, Jess?
Okay, well, firstly, I'm going to say thank you. Very flattered that I've been asked back. Obviously, I would have liked it to have been under more positive circumstances, but here we are. Secondly, I'm going to kind of use this as a sort of therapy session, so hopefully everyone else can. Just, after everything that's been going on, we're just going to get it all off our chests. Unfortunately, light at the end of the tunnel comes with the end of the season, but we're very near. I will say with Villa, just annoyingly, we've become this team that at an away game, we just find it impossible to come away with a positive result. It's been the last few, and I feel like any sort of team who is playing against us probably would find it as though they're losing, essentially, if they don't go 1-up within the first 15 minutes, because that would be a negative, because we are known so much for it that if they don't go up 1-0 within the first 15 minutes, it's probably them not doing enough. So unfortunately, that's the way we're sort of talking about Spurs away. I just think that, maybe the attitude at the beginning of the game, I don't know whether it's something to do with Ryan Mason's inexperience. Maybe, again, we're talking about the laziness of the players. Maybe they're arriving at an away pitch thinking, oh, this isn't our grounds, not going on with the right mindset. I'm hoping at this point it's not like that, but kind of seems like it is. Our one goal, Harry giving away a pen, if you look at all the comments about it, no one thinks that it should have been one. I kind of think that Harry maybe lowered his standards to get it, because
what? No, hold on. No, that's a pen all day long. What?
Well, yeah, no, I do think it is a penalty, but I think he would have preferred, under any circumstance, a player of his caliber would have preferred to get a goal outright in open play, not off a penalty.
Of course, but you take the keeper wiped him out, though. Yes,
yeah, I'm just saying that he wouldn't have, I just think that if you watch it back, he is gunning for it. He wants it so badly, and it seems like no one else on the team does. Again, it's Harry. It just feels like Harry's carrying the team. If he gets a penalty, he knows it's pretty much a goal. Regardless of what you think of it, obviously he's taking a hit. People are savaging him for it. Again, obviously we're on our team, but it still doesn't win us the game, does it? But anyway, yeah, we move on to our defense, which are just, like you said, lackluster. They're sitting ducks. It's almost like we're in a training session where you go, right, we're going to train the forwards and you guys are going to shadow the game so that people have to make moves around us, but we're not going to put in a challenge. There's a point with the first goal where basically we have 6 men back and we have the person with the ball going around the side, and it just looks like they're doing a drill. It looks like you've put in our players, Skip isn't marking anyone. He could have put in a challenge, probably a good decision not to at this point, but he doesn't put much pressure, and he makes the run all the way to the corner where Ben Davies and him are both on the ball player. Neither of them make a challenge. I don't know what it is about our defense who like to put their hands behind their backs as though they've got their hands tied so early on. Like, I get it, you don't want to get your arm touched, but when it's like in the corner, like, how likely is it gonna touch you on the way towards a goal? It's just not. Like, I just feel like they're making themselves look like matchsticks rather than a big obstacle to get around. And again, with 2 of them on one and not a single one of them putting in a proper challenge, I just think it just makes them look static, again, lackluster, again, like just being afraid to actually put in any form of aggression. Like Romero, when he does get aggressive, he's too late. Like, it's too late and you give away a penalty. It's just lazy and it's like an afterthought. It's like they're reacting to everything that's happening rather than actually having a proper structure. And again, the first goal, Porro is not a defender. He is marking this player and it almost doesn't matter that he is literally tight on him, like he's wearing the other guy's shirt. He still gets a touch on the goal like he's got no one on him. And I think if I were to be the manager of an opposing team, I would say, look, there's a lot of defense, but they're static. All you need to do is be dynamic, make sure to get around them, make sure to make the runs, call for it, and you're going to get a goal because it's just the way it is. It's just what's going to happen.
I think, generally, honestly, there, Jess, you've summed up our defence perfectly. Bless you. And it's a hard job to actually decipher what is happening. Chris, you've had to wait, my friend. Apologies for the wait. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on to make your debut here on Last Word on Spurs. Again, I will apologise to you as I apologise to Jess at the time. Sorry, it can't be under better circumstances. I think at the moment, Chris, I have to give you the dreaded question. I apologise for this. Of course, Spurs' chance of Europe now is hanging by a thread after that defeat to Aston Villa, who, of course, as I mentioned, are now level on points with Spurs, but they do trail by 2 in terms of goal difference. Now, Brighton are ahead by a point of both Spurs and Villa, with the Seagulls having the chance to actually extend that lead further. They do have two games in hand over us in the respective battle for some form of European football. Chris, where we are right now and with what's to come in the summer and the fact, as we've mentioned, we haven't got a manager, no director of football. Give me your take on the situation and how keen you would be for Spurs to secure some form of European football on the back of that defeat to Aston Villa.
Wow, what a start. I mean, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for having me on, Ricky. Honestly, I'm a massive fan. If I wasn't on the panel right now, I'd probably be listening to you guys. So thank you so much for having me on. It's an honor. Yeah. So where do we start? I mean, I have no idea, if I'm honest. I'm really, really torn on European football. So, I mean, if I'm honest, I think having no European football would definitely benefit this squad. Having a new manager come in, have all the time to work with the players week by week, be able to actually build something and get the team playing together so they can actually do well in the league and domestic competitions would definitely benefit. But at the same time, I always want to be a positive Spurs fan. I want to support my club. I hate wanting us to lose and come further down the table. It's such a weird, twisted feeling, isn't it? I mean, yeah. I mean, coming onto the game that we just lost. I mean, like I say, I always try and be positive. So I want to first positive I want to take. We made 8 minutes without conceding. I mean, weird, but what was it? 3 minutes against Newcastle? Not even that. Like, I'm taking positives where I can.
We're clutching. We're having
literally. I mean, that's the other thing. Mason as well. I feel really sorry for Mason. Like, he's not ready for this job, but I feel like he's got a big future in front of him. I feel like he needs to go away, cut his teeth in the Championship, come back one day. I think one day he'll be really good. Now's not the time. The players, they're all over the place. I feel like they're just confidence is rock bottom, isn't it? I think they've just completely lost any cohesion, confidence that they have had. It feels like they've been coached to be relaxed and chilled. Do you know what I mean? Like, they start the game slow and it feels like Jose was like, okay, take your time, build up. You're the better team, getting in their heads and all this sort of stuff. And it feels like they still feel that. So they take their time and they just get caught and they're too slow and they're not urgent enough. There's not enough pressing. They're not on the front foot. It's just a mess, Ricky.
It is. Yeah.
I mean, I've got a stat actually. You might have seen it. I'm not sure. Lee, you might enjoy this one. I heard this the other day that we've not actually won an away game since January, and we haven't won a game outside of London since October.
Yep.
Like, what a mess. What's going on?
Apparently, we're like 2 goals away from conceding the most goals
It'd be a record, yeah.
conceded in
It would be a
Premier
record
League
for us.
history.
Yeah, no.
Which
Look at you lot with the blue books coming out tonight. Look at you lot.
It's true, though. I mean, it's horrendous stats, isn't it? It really is. I mean, Lee, coming over to you, I think you made your feelings before known in terms of European football and what you would prefer if it was to be on offer. As we go in, obviously, of course, these last couple of games, we know the maximum number of points Spurs and Villa can both achieve is 63, with both currently on 57 as things stand. Brighton can actually match that tally by achieving 5 points from their last 4 games, which will be enough, of course, for a Europa League position. We know Spurs' best finish they could possibly have now, I believe, is 6th in the league, which, of course, would guarantee Europa League football. To avoid sparking another debate, because we do need to discuss the managerial situation or the lack of a manager at the moment, where do you stand, Lee, as you go into these final 2 games? Would you like to see the club secure any form of Europe for next season?
I'm kind of with Chris on this. It's so difficult, isn't it? Everybody, viewers and listeners, you're so torn, aren't you? Because you're kind of like, you don't want your club to lose. You never want your club to lose. Like, even if you're really, really angry and you're like, right, that's it, I'm done. How many times we said that this season? That's it, I'm done. And then you're renewing your season ticket like that. And I'm going to do mine.
I feel personally attacked. I know. Mate, don't worry. I'm in the same boat, dude. I'm going to do mine next week or whatever. I do like the little stats and stuff, and you're absolutely bang on, Jess, as well. You know, our worst defensive record in the Premier League history is 61 goals conceded, and we've conceded 59. So we're definitely going to beat that. So there's a positive, Chris. A little win for us, right? We're going to beat our worst record.
Be a new record.
That's a good record. And actually, you know, I do my little workings out, don't I, Rick, in terms of how many points on average over the last 10 years, whatever, get top 4. Unfortunately, we've got to drop down from top 4 to top 5 to top 6. So to get 6 points over the last 10 years in the Premier League, on average, it's 63.7 points. I know we can't get 0.7, but you have to round it up. So it's 64 points. We can't get that. But 63 points has got 6th place in the last 7 seasons. So 7 years out of 10, sorry. So if we win our last 2 games, statistically, we should probably get 6th. Here's the issue, though, and I don't know, I'm not 100% certain on this. So hopefully, our amazing viewers and obviously listeners, when you watch it, listen to this back, might be able to help us live now with the viewers. Is if Manchester United don't get top 4, I don't think 6th goes to the Europa League. I don't think it does. I think 6th gets Conference League.
No, it does, because in the FA Cup, you've got 2 teams that are in the top 4. So it has to go down.
I'm saying, if Man United don't get top 4, right?
Oh, okay.
So say, for example, because I'm absolutely banging that Liverpool are going to get top 4. Right? I think they are literally flying. They're going to get it. If Manchester United finish 5th, somebody you have to check it. I don't know. If Manchester United finish 5th, I thought the rules were they're already in the competition, so you don't get another place. If they're not in the competition, i.e. they're in the top 4, then the league gets another place. But if they've got that position already because they're the finalists of the FA Cup and get that place, and they're 5th, the league don't get another place. And therefore, we might be pushing. This would be classic Tottenham, wouldn't it? Right? We're pushed to get 6th. Think, result, we haven't got the Europa Conference League. And then we get Europa Conference League because of the whole Man United thing. So you need to check that. But I suppose come back to the point, Rick. I don't want Europa Conference League. And I know that sounds really defeatist and all that sort of stuff and whatever. But I think it is important. The Europa League is a good competition. And let's be honest about it. Spurs have been in that most times, actually, out of English clubs. Our average league position finish over 32 years in the Premier League is 5th. So we're typically a Europa League or UEFA Cup, if you like, in old money type team, and it's actually quite good competition to be able to grind out different players and ground different players and bring different people in, and it's not as demanding as the Champions League, as we found out this season. But I don't want Europa Conference League. I really don't. But I'm with Chris. I'm like, how do you want your team to lose? It's a really difficult one, isn't it, Rick?
Yeah, it is. Pat, coming over to you. As things stand, of course, we've got the Seagulls on a 21+ goal difference. Spurs and Villa both, I think, on 6 and 4 respectively at the moment. Achieving the 6 points from 12 would guarantee that Brighton do finish above their European rivals, although 5 points would suffice unless there's a major goal difference swing in what remains the rest of the season. Of course, Brighton will be really confident in terms of probably achieving that European football on the back of course, that win over Arsenal. Although I have to say, they've got some tricky games coming up. They've got to face top 4 sides, Newcastle and City, either side of their home clash, already relegated Southampton. We've then got Brighton that travel to Villa on the final day in what could potentially be a key game in the fight for, of course, Europa League football. And if results do go against Brighton prior to then, Spurs are just going to hope they beat, of course, Brentford, obviously this weekend, and then do beat Leeds United. But I think we all feel with the appointment of Big Sam, if Leeds are still going to shout on the final day, I think you can honestly say Leeds will be right up for that game at Ellen Road.
We'll definitely lose that.
Yeah,
we're definitely losing that game.
I have to ask you, Pat, so those fixtures, as I read them here, Spurs, of course, Brentford and Leeds United remaining, Brentford at home, Leeds away, Brighton, Newcastle away, Southampton at home, Man City at home. And then Villa's fixtures, they've got Liverpool away and Brighton away at home. Based on those fixtures, Pat, and where we are right now, where do you actually see Spurs finishing as things stand?
I think we'll finish 6th. I've been saying it all along, and I was with the mindset that I didn't want us to be in Europe next year. So just like you, Lee, said, and like Chris said, I never want my club to lose, but I thought that maybe it would be good to sacrifice European football for a season, just so with a new manager, he can really assess the squad, have a week to work on things. We can really see what's what. He can understand who his go-to guys are, really implement, because whoever the new manager is, more than likely it will be a back 4. So he'll understand who we're playing with, how to play, and obviously change the mindset of these players, because we've been so lackluster and mediocre for 3 or 4 years now, and a lot needs to change. So I really wanted us to step out of Europe for a year. It sounds crazy, really, but it doesn't if you really think about it. But then also at the same time, a club as big as Spurs should be playing European football. And I just think that we're so unlucky that even when we want something like this to happen, it won't happen. So I do think we'll finish 6th. I do think when you look at it, Brighton have got some, even though they're a fantastic team, they've still got to play Newcastle, Man City. Both of those teams are not going to want to lose those games. And even Aston Villa as well, which is almost like a Europa League playoff, like knockout game. So Brighton, even though they're, in good stead at the moment, have a much superior goal difference, who's to say they get any more points out of those games apart from the Southampton game? And sometimes as well, when the team's relegated now, that Southampton are relegated, the pressure's off, you might see them actually just relax and play some decent football because they've got nothing to play for. So they just go out and the weight's been lifted off their shoulders. Obviously, Villa have got to play Liverpool, who are gunning for that 4th spot. So that's not going to be an easy game. So I think we'll finish 6th, even though I don't want us to. I want us to win our games, but then also I don't. It's so I'm just, it's crazy. I just don't know what to think at the moment.
Conference versus the Europa, though, Pat, for you. Do you know what I mean? Because
I would take the Europa League, of course, because it is still a prestigious competition, and if you win it, don't forget it's a fantastic trophy, and it guarantees Champions League football the next year. So it's actually a serious competition now. But Conference League, I don't want to sound like a snob, but I don't really care about that. I'm not going to lie to you. I think it's a new competition, but even if we win that, we'll still get bantered. We'll still get laughed at. We'll still get mocked, even though it's a trophy. I'm sorry. Rival fans will not take us seriously because we've won.
Can you imagine Kane lifting the cup, right?
He'll get slaughtered.
But the thing is, guys, from an outside perspective, I know you guys are like looking down on it, and you said without meaning to sound like a snob, but you kind of are. Like we're talking about. Firstly, we don't have a coach, we don't have a manager. Who are we to say at this point? Okay, fair enough if like things pick up, but it's just like it just sounds deluded, doesn't it? It's almost like we're worried about going into the Conference Cup because we might not win it because we've never won it before. Like
that's the other thing. You're talking like we will win it. Where, if I'm honest, I don't think we would. Like, can
We're
you
talking
imagine
about
us
ripping out and
stringing?
restarting the team. We're talking about all of this, like, oh, we're a big club. We deserve this. We deserve that. We deserve to have a manager right now,
I totally agree.
and we don't have
Yep,
one. So
Totally agree, Jess.
who are we to say this?
Yeah.
at the
All
Can I
right.
also
moment?
add on that, Jess? Just to come back on to Jess, if I can. Go on, Pat.
Can
go
I
on.
just say so? Okay, Jess, put it this way: if we get a manager who takes it seriously, then cool. Then I'll take it seriously. But whenever we play in the Conference League, we'd always play a second team or third string team, and then we get embarrassed by teams who obviously are up for it because Tottenham are a big scalp. So
And that's
if
where
the
we're
manager,
going wrong, though, isn't it?
yeah,
We don't,
exactly. So
like, no one's taking it seriously. Everyone's looking down on it. No one's building those blocks to get from A to B.
Totally agree.
Or like from
Yeah.
D to A, rather. Like, they're just trying to skip all of it and just thinking it's the same. The attitude of the players, it runs right the way through the club. We're too good for this. We're too good for that. We're too big for this. Look at our shiny stadium. That's all well and great, but we need to actually put trophies in the cabinet. Doesn't matter what it is at this rate. Beggars can't be choosers at this rate.
You know what's interesting, Jess, to stick with you? Harry Kane says out very recently on the Europa Conference League, and he made that point, of course, in one of the interviews recently, that for a club like Tottenham that haven't won a trophy in the last 15 years, if we were to end up in that competition, we should still be doing anything in our power to try and win that. And I totally understand Pat's point that 100% Spurs would get bantered for winning that. But believe me, if West Ham go on to win the Conference League, Spurs will be bantered online for being a club that have yet to win a trophy, and West Ham have won one before them. So I don't, again, for you, Jess, just on that question for you of Europe, are you of the opinion for you that if it's not Europa League, you do want Conference League rather than no European football at all?
Oh, yeah. I just think that just like this joke of us having nothing in the cabinet is not a joke anymore. It's true. Like, it's so true that it's unbelievable. And I just feel like we can call the players lazy all we want. We can like say that their attitude is a bit rubbish, but we need to win something to start building all this back up. We need to like, just put the work in, basically. It's like we're saying that we want and we deserve this. It's kind of like some weird, I don't know, just I feel like it is snobby. Yeah, that's it.
Do you know what's interesting, Chris? Come over to you. Look, the reality is that Spurs have got quite a big squad, and that's before you consider the players that have got to come back, of course, from being on loan. The likes, of course, of Lo Celso, of Ndombele, of Reguilon, of Jed Spence. There's so many more, of course, I can name and mention for sure, 100%. Obviously, Joe Rodon as well, I must mention. Do you think, Chris, the reality is that if Spurs don't have European football next season, that is a big, big squad to try and keep happy. I know many are going to say to people, look, those players are going to go back out on loan again, or they're going to be sold. We've seen how difficult Spurs have tried in terms of trying to move players on. Therefore, for me, partly, I think the factor of European football, whether it's conference or Europa League, is a great way of trying to keep the squad fairly happy to some degree in harmony, that you can rotate essentially and have the Premier League. Is that how you see it for you, or would you like Spurs, regardless of the competition they're going to go in, to play the best available team they've got for them on that given match, regardless of who that opponent is?
Another difficult one. I mean, so even first of all, say if we got into the Conference League, like there's absolutely no guaranteeing we're going to win it, because let's face it, even when we play the first team, look at the FA Cup, right? They think they're too good. They start slow. They get beaten by teams we should be beating all day, all due respect, and they just roll over. And I don't think it'd be any different in the Conference League. I mean, as far as rotating players goes, it's been tried in the past, and I don't think it's worked. It's like, yes, we've got a lot of players, and in theory, they should come out, they should take their chance, they should hit the ground running, and they need to prove to the manager that they should be in the first team. But obviously, tell me if I'm wrong, but I can't remember many players that have done that in recent years. Like as far as the loan players go, it's difficult because obviously we all have a thing about Ndombele. Like, he should be this amazing player who came and saved our midfield, but what was he did in the he walked off slowly and got everyone booed him, and a lot of people want him out of the club, probably me as well. But there's always that thing in the back of your mind where he's won the league with Napoli, he's going to come back with a brand new manager. Could he come good? I don't know, but like Lo Celso as well. Villa want him, apparently. Like Emery, I think Emery was in charge at Villarreal, right? When Lo Celso was there, I think. So he's got his history with him. So he obviously sees something in him. He plays for Argentina in the first team. Obviously, where he was injured for the World Cup, but he would have been there. So there's something in these players. We just haven't had the managers to get it out of them, or they get to our club and they think, oh, this group of players can't be bothered. Like the mood's low. I don't want to be here or something. I don't know. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in that dressing room.
I feel like so I always try and think of it like, because I still play hockey, so I think about it with the dynamics of a team. And I remember there was a time where we were playing and there were like 3 key players and who were really good, a cut above the rest of us who were inexperienced or young or like just coming into the team because we'd lost a few players. And I will never forget, in the changing rooms, we were getting slaughtered each week from these teams that we were traveling like 3 hours away for. And the coach at the time would say, just get it to the key players. And that in your mind just kills you. Like, it just makes you feel like you're not worthy. It makes you feel like you are only there to serve those players. Those players become above you. And even when they lose their heads on the pitch, they think they have to do everything. It's like a weird sort of mind game. And I do wonder if you have people like, obviously Harry's up there and he's very professional and he's great, but he's up one end of the pitch and the highest forward shouldn't be the ones bossing all the people at the back. Then you've got people like Romero, who's also like super lax and super chill. He's just won a World Cup, like all of that lot. And you kind of look up to these people and then you kind of think like, well, where do I fit into this? And you try and make your mark, like Richarlison, make your mark and just kind of flop a little bit and just, you don't swim, you kind of sink because you're kind of being left behind. You're just expected to do your job. I don't know if there's like some of that just feeds into it. I mean, we don't know what's said in the changing rooms by the managers, by Ryan, who's probably more of a peer to someone like Harry. I don't know. It's just, I feel like maybe it's something in that.
I think it's great summary of that. I generally, if I can come in there, if I be so bold, I think it's spot on in terms of, we know the senior players. Antonio Conte come out in one of his press conferences, said, if you're questioning Sonny, or if you're questioning Kane, or if you're questioning Lloris, well, there you go. There's your 3 senior players straight away in terms of your analogy or for your experiences, Jess. I just want to qualify something as well, if I may, with the European football piece. Because it's not just about scoffing a cup or, snobbery in a cup in my head. I think for me, it's about realistically what we can do. And Pat alluded to it earlier. If we take it seriously, then it's a different vibe. But the reality of the situation is, and you can definitely at me, 100% if you want to challenge me on this, right? But I have built high-performing teams in the businesses that I've built through corporates and through my own companies and the companies that I now run. And you have to be realistic of what you can achieve. Like my business, right, can't go from 0 to 20 million quid, right, in the first year, 2 years, 3 years, right? It takes absolute graft and loads of sweat and tears and everything else. Same in anyone's industry, right? So why do we think that Tottenham, with the squad that we've got, and by the way, you said bloated squad, 37 first team players in the squad that we've got to sort out. Why do we think that by being in 4 cup competitions, 3 cup competitions, and then the Premier League, that we can go after all of them? We cannot. I'm telling you, breaking news. We cannot do that because we are not good enough. So we are at a different level. There's a reason, right? And Man City might do it because they're 2-0 up now in the Champions League semi-final. But there's a reason why there's only one British club in history that's only done a treble, right? Once, which is Manchester United back in '99. Because it's absolutely ridiculously hard. So when we put Tottenham into that thing, oh yeah, but Lee, you're talking about winning the Premier League and winning the Champions League. That's why it's so hard. Yeah, but for where we're at our level, winning 2 cups like Liverpool did, 2 domestic cups like Liverpool did a couple of seasons ago, last season, that's really difficult. So I think the plan and the vision, and I'm so sorry, viewers and listeners, because we're 40 minutes in, I haven't mentioned the plan and the vision, but here I go. But that's what I'm saying about going after something. And Jess, you're right in terms of building, or I think, I can't remember her name, is it the lady that put something on the screen earlier, mentioned about, get a winning mentality, win something and then go again. I agree with that. But don't go into the season thinking that we're going to go and win the Conference League because we're Tottenham. Because we're not, as Chris alluded to, we're not. But if we've got a plan to go, we're going to take it seriously and we're going to play Harry Kane every week and we're going to lose results in the Premier League like West Ham have done because we're going to concentrate on winning a trophy, not three trophies and a Premier League. That's very different. Does that make sense? So I think for me, it's about having and I think most Spurs fans, well, I'm definitely would be in that camp, but most Spurs fans would agree, would get on that train, right? They would get behind that if we know where we were going to go. New manager comes in and says, look, I'm a little bit like Poch, right? When Poch came in, he went, I'm sick of, worrying about what Arsenal are doing. I'm sick of just mulling about in cups. I want to go for the big prizes. And he started making us believe, hang on, I know we didn't win the big prize, we've got Champions League final, but he started making us believe if a new manager comes in, say it's Slot, and he comes in and he goes, I'm going to win the Europa Conference League. We're in it and I'm going to win it. And this is what we're going to do. And this is how we're going to do it. I think we could get behind that. But we won't do that because all this club wants is top four because of the money and because of all that sort of stuff that comes beyond. It comes back to me, sorry to waffle on for ages, but it comes back to me about that plan and that vision of what do we want to be? Do we want to win a cup? Do we want, even in Daniel Levy's interview when he hired Jose in an open press conference thing, he said, what's your expectation? He went, top four and maybe a trophy. It's like, it's an afterthought. No, we don't really care about the trophies. What we care about is, can we get the money with the top four? And that's the thing that needs to change, Rick. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yep. Totally agree. We are going to discuss the lack of a manager and the lack of a director of football. Pat, I'm going to open the discussion with you. Just to update listeners and viewers where we stand at the moment, Friday saw Julian Nagelsmann ruled out, although, again, I must caveat that and say we've heard in the last couple of days that they may still be a very unlikely twist. And I remind you, of course, the fact that Spurs did, of course, break down in talks with Antonio Conte and subsequently, after letting Nuno go, did grovel back, begging Antonio to take the job. So never say never. Mauricio Pochettino on the verge of joining Chelsea. That days away now from being announced, as we understand. Vincent Kompany renewing his contract with Burnley. Xabi Alonso, as we record here, staying at Leverkusen, publicly admitting today that he will remain at the football club. And as we record today, it's 47 days since Antonio Conte was sacked. Pat, the stage is yours. Where are we in the midst of trying to find a manager and a director of football, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's a mess. I mean, because obviously I'm on different podcasts and I'm always representing Spurs, and they have tried to hammer me for this. But I did also try and put my sensible hat on and say that we are in the midst of a season and all managers, well, most managers are still managing a team. A lot of the managers we're looking at are in the middle of important runs in whatever league they're at. So it will be difficult to get a manager at this stage. But this is something that we should have thought about before we fired our manager. So it's like we knew these circumstances. They don't change. Everyone's got a domestic league to focus on, European football, maybe cups as well. So we did that does make it a bit more difficult than the whole Conte thing. Not Conte, Nuno saga in the summer, where it was the summer and we were just getting bantered and killed left, right, and centre because every single manager talks were breaking down. So that is one thing to think about. But then it just goes to show there is no plan, there is no structure. A lot of the managers that we're talking to are completely different in the profile from from one to the next. So again, that raises concerns. It makes me feel, is there a direction? Personally, I feel, how can we appoint a manager without a DOF? For me, I think the DOF should come first, because if you have a DOF in, he then has a plan and a strategy. He can talk to Daniel Levy. It should be the DOF making the calls, but of course they'll be liaising together, and the DOF will say, this is the vision, I think. This is who we need. These are the players we need to go in for. These are the guys who we need to renew their contracts. These are the guys that you should be letting go. And then obviously the manager comes in and you get on board and you restructure that plan and go. So I'm really concerned and confused why the DOF isn't the first thing that we're looking at. So I don't know. I'm hoping that when the season does end, because we're literally a couple of weeks away, we get the DOF in first, and then he then looks at the managers and says, this is the guy I want, and this is why we're going for him. things keep changing every day. You know, 1 minute Xabi Alonso is the favourite. Now it's Arne Slot. Tomorrow it'll be a next guy and a next guy. So I'm just confused of what's going on. And it is, yeah, so it's been concerning. I mean, it was concerning when Conte didn't, wasn't going to renew his contract. It was concerning when he did the rant. It was concerning when he left. It was concerning when, his number 2 stepped in and then we got battered 6-1 by Newcastle. And it's just been going on and on and on. And yeah, it's not looking good. I'm trying to stay optimistic. I am, like I said, I'm hoping the DOF situation is sorted. And what can I say? I don't know. I don't know what else to say, really.
What I've got from that, Pat, it's all concerning. Very concerning situation. And it never stopped being concerning with Tottenham. Chris, if I can bring you in where we stand at the moment now, again, as Pat referenced there, and Pat makes a really important point that the situation feels like it's changing all the time with Tottenham in terms of its managerial search. As we recall today, and I must emphasise and time and date stamp this, that we're recording here on the 17th of May, and it's 10 to 9 in the evening here, that the reports coming out of the English press are Spurs are stepping up their interest in Arne Slot as Feyenoord brace themselves for a battle to keep their highly rated coach. Now, we understand that Feyenoord do want Slot to sign a new contract, but Spurs are understood to be keen to speak to the Dutchman about their vacancy. And we have heard reports that Daniel Levy, Scott Munn, wherever they are somewhere in the Netherlands, reportedly, even trying to broker a deal for the man. Now, of course, he comes on the back of a really, really decent season, of course, winning the league with Feyenoord, in which he's completely, really transformed that club. To have got ahead of Ajax and win the league is no mean feat. It would, of course, mean that Spurs are appointing someone with a lack of Premier League experience. You could argue, of course, that they were in this situation before with Erik ten Hag, similar profile that done very well with Ajax, and they decided to turn a different way. Of course, he had an interview. Spurs didn't seem like what came out of that interview. They opted for a different choice. Chris, where do you think we stand in this battle for a manager? And we'll come on, of course, the director of football as well at the moment. I agree with Pat as well that really, in any normal business, which Tottenham don't seem to be, the director of football would come first. But this is Tottenham Hotspur. So, Chris, stage is yours.
Yeah, I mean, you'd hope so, wouldn't you? Any normal club would have a DOF in first. They'd have a plan. They'd have a structure. They'd get the DOF to choose the manager that would fit with their vision, and they'd all work together in harmony. But hey, this is Tottenham Hotspur, and that's not how it works. I mean, managers. So obviously, Poch is killing me. I think if I'm completely honest, I feel like it was still maybe too early for him to come back. He's a lot of the players that were there are still there. He needs a clean slate to restart and build something again. That's the thing. I think any manager that comes in, we need to clean slate. We need to start from scratch. They need time. They need to build. I feel like even next season might be a transition period. I feel like next season might be painful. I think we need to strap in. But the dream would have been Nagelsmann. I feel like who's the other German guy? Someone said it in the chat just now. What's the DOF?
Ralph Rangnick.
Yeah, I feel like Rangnick and Nagelsmann would have been the dream pairing, but I don't see it happening. I think Nagelsmann's too smart. He doesn't want to put his cards in our basket right now, does he? But it's I feel like other dream De Zerbi would be incredible, but that's not happening. Why would he leave Brighton? Why would he leave Brighton right now? They're amazing. Yep. I think at first Schlott, I wasn't keen. He's unknown. Eredivisie, he hadn't won anything until now. No Premier League experience, but the more and more I look into it, he's growing on me. I think he's won the league with Feyenoord. Everything I see about him coming out of the press from the players, people who've worked with him, they have nothing but good things to say. He's progressive. He's good with man management. Apparently, I hear he's front foot football. He seems really positive, and he seems good at building teams. Every team he's taken over has been in a bad position when he picks them up, and they build and they win games. That's the thing, they win, which we need. And they win matches, they string results together, and ultimately he's won a title. So he's got more titles than we have in recent times. I don't know whether you guys have seen. There's a video Matty Hayes did the other day, analysing Arne Slot. And after watching that, I'm not going to lie, he's growing on me. I think he's my first choice right now. But out of all the, the people who have turned us down, he's risen to the top.
Which normally means the next 24 hours, Chris, that happens and then he doesn't become the first choice. And we again, but that's another story. Jess, coming over to you if I can, then we'll come over to Lee. You know what? We understand that the compensation figure for hiring Slot will be somewhere around the 6 million mark. He's on a current salary, I believe, of 2.5 million or to 3 million, I would say, his contract's worth at Feyenoord. For the names out there at the moment, Jess, and the way it has twisted and turned over these last 47 days since Conte's departure, is Slot the man for you, or is there anyone else out there that you have got an eye on that Spurs aren't currently being linked with?
I'm going to be completely honest. And as the names have come in, I've been like looking up the managers. I've kind of like not really done my homework when it comes to managers. But as soon as anyone comes in, I'm like, oh, yeah, this person. Oh, that person. Oh, Nagelsmann. Oh, like what do I think of this person? And now you guys have just said about 5 more names that I didn't even know were linked. And for me, my interest has just gone down so much. I feel like I just want one name and I want to look them up, and whether I agree with it or not, I'm a bit like, right, I just need some hope, like just something to get behind, like someone's strategy to get behind. I just think it's just got to the point now where so many people, I feel like our hopes were lifted so much with the return, like this fairy tale return of Poch, that anything after that was a bit like, oh, Nagelsmann was like this exciting young person who could whip us into shape, who was apparently quite strict and maybe would come in and not be afraid of like shouting at people in the dressing rooms. And then beyond that, I'm sorry, everyone else's name has just come and gone, because I'm a bit like, well, it's just getting my hopes up and then kind of letting me down again.
Yep. No, I don't blame you on that. I mean, Lee, can I say for a lot of viewers and listeners that aren't interested in Mauricio Pochettino, this probably be one of the last times that I mentioned the fella until he's probably in the opposition dugout for a preview, which we've got to face him, which I know for you, Lee, will probably be a difficult game.
But I think even the people who were against the idea is because it is just fairy tale, isn't it? Like the return and like.
I just think, you know what, Jess, on that point, and to come back to you on that, is I think Mauricio, what he would have done is for I would say a big percentage of fans. I'm not going to say for everybody, because I know many didn't want Poch to return. But what I think his appointment would have done is unified a big percentage of the fan base and would have got a lot of people back on side who weren't currently. And the fact of not even contacting him.
Just to add on that as well, I think it would have given us some sort of assurance that something would have been different this time, because they can't bring him back and just do the same thing again.
Exactly.
So I feel like there was hope in that as well. But
the problem you've got is, Jess, is that bringing him back is an admission that they've made a mistake. And unfortunately, in what we are now, over 20 plus years of Enoch, Daniel Levy in control of the football club, I don't think on many occasions we've heard the word, we're sorry, or we've made a mistake, or we've got this wrong. And I will say this again on Last Word on Spurs, and I invite Daniel on here, I invite the Ball to come on this show, as I've always done, as me and Lee have always implored as well. There's no harm. Come and have a chat with us. Come and talk to us about the current situation. Let us know the direction. Let us know the vision, the view. Well, I mean, look, where we are right now, we haven't got a reply as of yet. Whether that comes, we'll have to wait and see. But ultimately,
someone wrote a funny comment saying that Daniel Levy's floating in the Pacific Ocean on a log, and that made me laugh earlier.
You wouldn't know where we are or where he's at the moment. But I mean, Lee, just to finish up and sum up on Pochettino before we get your thoughts on the managerial situation. Our understanding is the reasons why Spurs didn't want to appoint Mauricio, according to the Standard, and Dan Kilpatrick, of course, obviously very high profile writer of the Stand. He said that Spurs are wanting a young, hungry, upcoming manager. Going back in football ready works, not being influenced by emotion, and concerns about his final season at the football club. That's okay if you know there's actually a succession plan and we're seeing almost, an actual point and vision and clarity to this managerial search. But at the moment, Lee, it feels almost aimless in terms of where we are right now. 48 days for our listeners, it will be on audio since Conte was sacked. I think it's 52 days in this search for a manager. Where do you stand, Lee, on the managerial situation at the moment before we look ahead to Brentford?
Well, just on the Poch thing, right? Everyone knows my views. If you follow me and listen to this amazing show or watch this amazing show, you already know my views. So I won't go too much about Poch, other than I will I actually have a thing in my stomach, the pit to my stomach. There's a knot in it when I think of him holding that Chelsea shirt up and then making a speech going, I'm going to bring the good days back at Chelsea. When he should have been saying that speech at Spurs going, I'm back to finish the business that I started and actually to do the rebuild. That's how the script should have been, people, as Jess alluded to. That's the fairy tale. And actually, there's no hope for any of us if 51 years old is old, because that's how old Poch is. And so he's not a young manager anymore, right? 50. So if you're 50, if you're over 50, then you're really old. By the way, I'm not over 50 before anyone thinks that. Of course, I'm not. But the reality of the situation is it's not particularly old. Roy Hodgson is 75, and he's just won 5 games out of his first 8 coming back to Crystal Palace, which is a damn sight better record than any of our interim managers have done, either Ryan and or Stellini, by the way, Mr. Chairman. So I find that perplexing. I also find it absolutely ridiculous that you can say don't go back, because we're watching a semi-final of the Champions League, and you're right, we are watching some of it on different screens, right? A semi-final of the Champions League with a guy that has gone back to the football club that he managed previously. He's now in another semi-final. Oh, and by the way, who won the Champions League last season? Oh, the manager that went back to the club that he managed before, right? So don't tell me that it don't work if it's going back. So there's the rant on Poch. I think the problem, Rick, across everything is it doesn't matter who becomes our manager. Like, I've been in recruitment for 23 years. I am showing my age now. I started very, very young. I was like 7. But I've been in recruitment for 23 years. And it's a different game to the game of football completely. And it's a different game to hiring managers and so on and so forth. But the basis is the same. I run a tech business that looks at behaviors and competencies, okay? And it's all about the behavior and the attitude and the type of individual that you're bringing into your organization, whether or not it's a football club, whether or not it's a restaurant, whether or not it's a call center, whatever it is, there is an ethos in that business or in that football club that everybody needs to have a part of. For example, if you believe that hiring based on a CV is wrong, which is our ethos and our mission, we will never look at a resume or a CV to hire somebody. We will always look at their behaviors, their competencies, and we'll do it in a different way. So bringing that into that context into Tottenham, if we have a belief in Tottenham that we have to play on the front foot, or we have to play in a certain style or a certain way, bringing managers in that don't play that way is never going to work. Okay, and I think we've just proved that. If it was an experiment, it's a very expensive one, we just proved that over the last 3.5 years, 4 years with Jose, Nuno, and Antonio Conte to a certain degree, because I do think he was a good appointment and it could have been different. But the point I'm making is, without a director of football, as Patrick, I think we've all said it, so I'm giving all of you credit, right? But without a director of football, with Scott Munn not even started his job yet, how can we possibly sign another player? Like, all these reports, even our accountant puts out there, Rick, oh yeah, we're interested in signing. So how can we be interested in signing? Because I tell you what, if I'm the new manager, and thank goodness to all of you amazing people that I'm never going to be considered for the manager at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, but if I was, I would be wanting to pick the players, right? I'd be wanting to say, oh yeah, I want to hire Jess, or yeah, I want to hire Chris, or I want to hire Patrick. You don't come into a situation where you're going, oh, by the way, we knew we were looking for you, Lee, but we've just hired you, Patrick, Jess, Chris, and Ricky, by the way. Like, so how is that even possible? So the point I'm trying to make in a really long-winded way, as I normally do, is it doesn't matter who comes into a football club until the rest of the stuff is sorted. And this is the major problem. It is the dog wagging the tail, or the tail wagging the dog. You have to get your ducks in a row. Look, all these animal analogies coming out. You have to get your ducks in a row before you can start a recruitment process. And here's the Nagelsmann thing, right? Here's the Nagelsmann thing. Julian, I know it didn't work out at Bayern Munich, and I know you walked away from Chelsea. Would you like to come manage our football club? Yeah, I'm pretty interested. What's your structure look like? Well, we ain't really got one at the moment. Oh, okay. So what's the plan for me then? Well, you can't really have lots of transfers, and we're about to offer Eric Dyer a 3-year contract. Are you in? Seriously? Like, as if he's going to be in. Like, he's just not going to be in. The other thing as well, it gets reported by all these brilliant journos, by the way, that we do have on the show, Rick, and we are lucky to have them on. and they report that stuff's coming out, and they're talking about not the journos, but the people that are being reported about. Tottenham are interested in signing Julian Nagelsmann as their manager, but he's got demands, right? He wants to sign Guardiola, right? Great. Yeah, we can try and sign Guardiola for if you want. We're paid with transfer fee. We paid on Dembele 68 million, 67 million. We paid a transfer fee for Guardiola. But Guardiola wants 350 grand a week. And we can't pay that. We can't. Because Kane's only on 220, right? Plus his bonuses. So we can't pay the 350 grand a week. Man City are offering 350 a week. So he's going to go Man City. Oh, well, then I'm not coming. Nagelsmann. So you've got to understand, like, I know a lot of people won't like that because we want to batter the board. And believe you me, I do as well. And I have been. But you've got to understand the intricacies. If we sign Guardiola for 60 million quid, 70 million quid and pay him 350 a week, what is the ramifications of that? So we'll work in our office. We just started a business. We'll work in our office together. We'll work in our music studio. Jess, you walk in. Hang on a minute. Why is Rick getting paid more than I am? Patrick, why is Rick now getting this? I want more money. I want more money. So all of a sudden, to change the wage structure just to... So the Nagelsmann scenario, maybe Nagelsmann said, I want these top players. There's no guarantee that you're going to get these top players unless you give them the top money. The reason why Haaland goes to Man City, is because they win loads of stuff. Yes, but the reason why they win loads of stuff is because loads of money. But as soon as Manchester United get taken over by the Qataris, who is going to take on Man United? You see, man, you watch Newcastle. So in the end, what I'm trying to say is about the money. Now, Tottenham are the 9th richest club in the world, by all accounts. They have got money, and that's the bit that's really disappointing. But it's not just paying whatever he wants, like we used to say about Toby Alderweireld when he wanted a new contract. And by the way, we did keep him, didn't we? And we did keep him on as a new contract. And what happened? We sold him. We let him go to like Saudi Arabia or whatever in like 18 months after that. What happened with Dembele? We've got £230 million worth of talent currently out on loan. Are you literally winding me up? 230 million, a club like Tottenham, we can't afford to have that on there. So there's so much to sort out. So Slot, Nagelsmann, De Zerbi, in the same way that Jess and the rest of the crew talked about the Europa Conference League, how come, who would you have? What do you mean, who would you have? That's not our choice. We have to entice them, and we can't entice any manager to come to us. Why? Because we don't know who we are and we don't know where we're going. We haven't got a why. We don't know the essence of this football club anymore. We don't know. We're the fans. We're shelling out 1,300 quid, 1,500 quid, £2,000, whatever it is on season tickets. We don't know where we're going, Rick. So how's a manager going to come in and go, oh yeah, happy days. There's some serious pain for the next two, three years. We've got to get this right. And somebody said in the comments when I started my waffle about 2 hours ago, so forgive me. Somebody said in the comments, you know, we've got to be able to change. The problem is that Ranić would work if he was allowed to. The comment was Ranić would work with Nagelsmann if he was allowed to do his thing. But will he be allowed to do his thing, Rick? Will the board change? I've been calling for it for ages. There's lots of protests going on the weekend. No one will mention them. Shout out to Brian and got Crackers, one of our own. Like there's protests. The noises are getting louder. The leave out chants are getting louder every single week in the stadium. You have to start listening to the people, the men and women, the fans that pay each week. You have to start listening. We are in disarray, and we need a voice. A leader comes out and leads. They take charge of the situation and they talk about where we are, who we are, what we want to do, and where we're going. And I actually don't care if they come out and say we're going to try and win the Premier League, but it's going to take us 10 years. Well, okay, at least that's a starting point. Right, let's do a work back. In 10 years, we're going to win the league. What are we going to do until that time? It's how you build business plans. It's how you build businesses. It's how you should be building an ethos around a team that is a football club and not a bank.
Yep, I agree. Listen, what we are going to do, we are going to go for our final break of the show for our listeners on audio. Taking that break, you're going to hear from Billy from Besotted, the Brentford Brilliant podcast, who gives you his view ahead of Brentford to come for our listeners on audio. We're going to squeeze in a quick 5 on Brentford before we allow everybody to go away and watch, for those interested, the closing of the Champions League semi-final between City and Real Madrid. Jess, I'm going to kick things off with you for this game at the weekend against Brentford. It is my duty to mention that, of course, Saturday, Spurs' final home game of the Premier League season. We're expecting, of course, Daniel Levy to provide a chairman's statement, like he normally does. It'll be very intriguing to see what goes in that chairman's statement on, of course, the final home game of the season.
Get him on the tannoy in the stadium.
Apparently they have like a mural for Harry as well, so I feel like lots of people are going to be there.
It's going to be an interesting day. It will be, of course. It's going to be a big day. Obviously, of course, it's going to be heavily debated, and obviously a lot of protesting happening beforehand. And again, look, we'll mention that on here. We've got no problem mentioning, of course, there'll be a number of protests happening outside the ground in build up to kick off. But Brentford come into the game, Jess, on a 3-game unbeaten run. It was actually brought to a swift end up at their visit of Merseyside, where Salah scored, but they got their season, or the end of the season, back on track by beating West Ham United. They head into the game just 4 points behind 7th place Spurs with 2 games left to play, and they still even have a chance of Europe. So give me your thoughts ahead of Brentford coming to town at the weekend and a prediction.
Okay, so firstly, Ivan Toney was the one that I initially thought we needed to watch out for. He was out at the weekend, hamstring, but now he's out for 8 months. You know that, right? Everyone knows that. Okay.
The breaking news today, absolutely.
Everyone knows that. Great news for us. Obviously, rubbish for him, but I'm not going by stats. I'm kind of going by what I've seen. But I know that at the last game against West Ham, they just looked super intense, super physical, like really hungry on goals. So obviously we need to watch for that. And also like very happy to get scrappy, without meaning to rhyme there. It just kind of looked like on all of their chances that they had, it was kind of on the second go, so like the rebound that they were getting their goals. So I'm just really, really hoping that our home game advantage is going to put us in good stead. And hopefully if any of the Spurs team are listening to this podcast, then just get your act together and just don't concede any goals. Don't concede any. Just don't. We're at home. There's Mbumo. I think that's how you say his name. Mbumo.
Yep, that's right.
He's the one who's like super vocal, always there, always wanting it so badly. Like he's gonna be going for it. I know that he definitely is going to be looking out for an early goal. I just think obviously I do back Fraser, but our back for who's it? We've got back 3 now, haven't we?
Yep.
I don't know. They play 4-3-3, so if they keep it like that, I think they probably will, because I reckon they'll back their 3 in the middle against like our 4 mids. I don't know. I think they're going to be really, really aggressive. So I'm hoping that our home game advantage will kind of set us in good stead for a win. I know what we're like and we have to be realistic. So I'm going to say we're probably going to go a goal down early, but I want us to win, and I always back Kane and Son to score. So I'm going to say 2-1.
Amazing. Jess, it's been an absolute pleasure having you back on. For your own sanity, I'm going to tell you the next time you are going to be on, hopefully it won't be in the middle of a crisis. We actually might have a manager by the time you're next on, Jess, because I think Jess hasn't been here to oversee a Spurs manager yet. She's only been here for interim. So I can promise you, Jess, interims.
It's your fault.
I'm starting to think it's about me now. Wow.
Definitely not your fault. Timing of when you've come on last one on Spurs, but we can promise you next season. Or can I promise you? We should have a manager in place unless we sack him on day one, but don't put anything past Tottenham. Look what we did with Nuno. So finally, Jess, where can everyone check you out on the music vibe? I have to say, where can everyone check you out, Jess?
Yeah, I have to say, obviously, thank you so much for having me back. First time I was speaking about football, I was very nervous. This time I was like, ready to go when you booked me. And then alas, things got a little bit worse. But obviously, like I said at the beginning, bit of a therapy sesh, needed to get it all off my chest. And I'm hoping for the best this weekend. Always good to be back. Lee, good to meet you, and Patrick as well. And also, I have to say for people listening at home, me and Chris have a bit of friendly rivalry because Black Honey, the band that he's in, I mean, we go head to head at Reading Festival. Last 2 times has been interesting. It was at the Silent Disco. So yeah, I mean, it was just funny. Last time you absolutely smashed me though. But first time I won, hands down. But yeah, people can hear me on Magic Chilled Monday to Friday, 2 till 5. I'm on BBC Radio London on Saturday nights with the best new music from London on BBC Introducing London. And for chill out vibes, if, I don't know, the football's getting too much for you, Radio 1 Relax, Saturdays and Sundays on Radio 1 at 5 a.m.
There's
Or
absolutely
BBC sounds.
absolutely no excuse just on the back of that why we should not be listening with a lot of chilled out vibes that we need of what Tottenham might do to us over the summer. So bless you. We're looking forward to having you back on already. Thank you so much. Lots of love for you in the comments tonight, I must say. Chris, an absolute stormer of a debut. Thank you so much for your time. I'm sure we'll have you back on next season with us. Chris, give me your thoughts ahead of Brentford to come. Of course, it's been for them, another good season. Established now in the Premier League, you have to say. And for them, European hopes might not even be over. Of course, they have played 2 games more than Brighton. But it is maybe for them about ending the campaign on a high. In terms of their position now, they can't finish anywhere lower than 10th. So for them, it's again a top half finish. Obviously, a lot of talk around the great job Thomas Frank has been doing. And of course, his technical director actually been linked to Tottenham recently as well. Give me your thoughts, Chris, on your thoughts ahead of the game against Brentford and how you feel Spurs will approach this one, and a prediction, please.
Yeah, I mean, Brentford, they've been amazing since they've come up, haven't they? They've like absolute vision of how a club should be run. I think Thomas Frank's done an incredible job. I think a lot of their players, they came up as underdogs and they've proved themselves, and they've been consistent, they've been solid, they've been hungry. I think they had a bit of a rocky patch a few months ago, didn't they? After their really, really strong start to the season, but they've turned it back around, and they're still a really difficult team to beat. And given our previous form, I can see them beating us. I hate to say it because I always want Tottenham to win. I always want to bet on us. But I don't know what to predict. I think they're going to be very good. I think if we start slow, they could score a goal early, obviously. But you never know. Like we beat Palace. We played quite well. We were solid. If we play anything like we did against Palace, which I reckon it will probably be the same starting lineup, I'd imagine, then fingers crossed we can get something out of it. You always back Harry to score. What is he on? 27 goals now? Incredible. Like mad. If Haaland wasn't there, he'd be miles away for the Golden Boot.
Yep.
Unreal. Absolutely unreal. He completely deserves his mural he's going to get, and I'm gutted I can't be at the game. That's going to be amazing. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna predict Spurs 2-1 win because I can't bet against Spurs, but my head's saying it's going to be difficult.
It will most certainly be. Chris, it's been a real pleasure having you on Last Word on Spurs. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Chris, where can everybody find all that is about your music vibe, what you do with the band, and of course, they want to see a bit more in detail from you?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you so much, guys, for having me on. Like I say, I've been following you guys for years, and it's an absolute privilege to be on the show. Hopefully, it's the first of many. I'd love to come back. Yeah, I mean, so like Jess was saying, I'm in a rock band called Black Honey. We recently had our 3rd record out, which got to number 6 in the UK charts, which we're really, really proud about. You can find us on YouTube, on Spotify, Twitter, Instagram, all the usual ones. Also, cheeky little shout out, my Twitter, right? I've never really used it. So I need to call around the Spurs Twitter community. I need your help because I've got no followers whatsoever. And I feel like this is the time, right? This is the time to start. I want to join the community.
Ricky, now we see his true colours.
No, this is
cesspit, mate. You don't want to be on it. It's an absolute cesspit.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
Instagram, it's much lighter.
In 2 weeks, you'll be telling me, what did you do doing that?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I've been sat in the distance for about 3 years. I've had Twitter and I just use it to follow, the news and all the journalists, Ali Gold, Fabrizio Morano. You know the guys. You do the same thing probably, but I've never said anything personally. I've just sat in the background and watched. So I feel like now's the time. Let me into your community, guys.
Cool. I'm gonna follow and retweet all your stuff now. So
there you go.
Well, it's only like 3 tweets, so you ain't got long.
There you go, Chris. Thank you so much, my friend. We'll look forward to having you back with us next season for who knows what's to come on Last Word on Spurs. Pat, for your sins, bless you, mate. You're back with me on Saturday evening for the post-match show where we're expecting, of course, big numbers as always for that. It's obviously our final home game of the season. You feel there's going to be a lot to discuss with Spurs. Who knows where we'll be in the next 3 to 4 days with this football club and what comes out of that Brentford result. Now, obviously, they've both scored and conceded in 6 of their previous 7 Premier League affairs, Brentford, and it's their away from it's been really disappointing. We know Keane, Lewis Potter, Christian Norgard, Thomas Drokasha, and outgoing captain Pontus Jansson are all confined to the treatment room for this one. Of course, the big breaking news of today is that Ivan Toney will be suspended from all football-related activity with immediate effect for 8 months, which will run up until the 16th of January 2024. He's a big blow, of course, to Brentford and what he does bring to that team. Pat, on the back of that news, that changed your thought going into the game? And yeah, give us your prediction as well, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big loss. I was shocked. 8-month ban is crazy, scandalous. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't condone what he's done. If the counts are true, professional footballer betting on so many games is an atrocity, and he deserves it. But I'm shocked. I mean, it definitely comes at a good time for us, because Ivan Toney, I've been watching him this season, and he's a fantastic footballer, very underrated. He does a lot for that team. 20 goals, 4 assists. Can finish, and his touch is fantastic as well. The way he brings the ball down, brings people into play, and a very good penalty taker as well. Very underrated striker. So, them losing their best player is a big bonus for us. Looked at their form, our form and their form over the last 5 games. Ours is loss, win, loss, draw, loss, which is 4 points. Theirs is win, loss, win, draw, 10 points. So they're in much better form than us. Dare I say, a much better team than us at the moment. Obviously, going forward, we can outscore and go toe-to-toe with anyone, but it's defensively where we're always a shambles and where we let ourselves down. So like Jess was saying, if they come out firing, we're in trouble. I think being it's the last home game, being the fact that it's the last time we possibly see some of our players, I don't want to jinx anything. I'm hoping that these guys come out and really put a show on for us. I do think we'll win. Well, my heart is saying that we win 3-1. Obviously, if I'm being sensible and going off the form, I know it's going to be very tight, probably a lot tighter than that. Brian Mbeumo is a good player, 7 goals and 6 assists this season. Another player that's gone under the radar. He's definitely the danger man and someone to look out for. I do think we'll just get the job done, but it's going to be tough, man. They're a good team in much better form than us. If you're looking at the table, it's 2 evenly balanced teams. And that is shocking that I'm saying that at this stage of the season. They actually got a better goal difference than us, conceded less goals than us. Crazy. It just goes to show where we're at the moment. But we're at where we're at because that's where we deserve to be, And we're the only guys that can turn it around. When I say we, I mean, obviously the players, but the fans as well. If you're there on Saturday, please be positive, get behind the team. If we go down, still scream, shout, get behind the boys, because we've got 2 games left. I want us to win both of those games. We end where we end and we go again next year, man. But it's been a roller coaster of a season. There's been a lot of highs, a lot of lows, a lot of middle parts, if you want to call it that. I just hope next year can be better, because this year has been very disappointed. I know, I'm probably getting a bit too sentimental, and we're gonna go over this on Saturday. But
sorry,
yeah, it's it's Ricky. What are
now.
you doing to me, man? What are you doing to me?
I'm so sorry, bro. I'm so sorry. What was it, Pat? We got a prediction from you there. Did you want to give us a prediction?
3-1.
Okay, we shall see. Maka, to close it with you. I mean, look, this trip to North London will not intimidate Brentford. They have already taken a point of Spurs' local rivals at the Emirates, 3 at Stamford Bridge, 3, of course, at the Etihad. So Brentford are not a team that fear going on the road, despite the fact they've had some negative results, of course, over spring period, really, which has led to them, finishing 10th or around 10th position, which certainly, you've got to say, still no negative for a side of Brentford, of course. Thomas Frank, one, they've actually been linked with Tottenham this week, as of long as his technical director as well. So, Lee, give me your thoughts ahead of this game. What do you want to see from Tottenham as we bid farewell to what will be our final home game of this torturous Premier League season, Maka?
Well, if they beat us, I think they might finish above us, because I'm absolutely convinced we're going to lose against Big Sam's Leeds. If Leeds are in it for the last game of the season, I'm telling you, we are going to Ellen Road, and them fans up there, they're going to absolutely tear us a new one. We could be 2-0 down in the first 10, 15 minutes. What I would say, though, about our home form is actually generally been pretty good. Under, I don't know how many managers we had this year, Rick. Three managers. Our home form recently has been pretty good.
3 years.
I think it'll be 1-1 personally. And again, this pains me. I mean, this club has absolutely killed me since Sheffield United. I can't get up for it anymore. Honestly, people like Chris and Jess, right? I'm not normally like this. I'm normally I'm so upbeat and like so Mr. Positive. I'm done. I'm like literally. So I think it'll be 1-1. I think Kane will score again. I actually hope the little thing for me is that Kane scores 30 Premier League goals this season. He's never done it at all, and he's on 27. He's got 2 games to get enough, like 3 goals. So I hopefully I'm wrong. All right, look, I'll go positive. We'll win 2-1. Kane gets both of them.
Or Kane hat-trick, and then that would be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's
Kane hat-trick would be absolutely amazing. That would be absolutely amazing.
I'm here for it.
I'm there for that. I mean, unfortunately, I'm actually not there for it at all because I'm flying to Spain tomorrow night straight from London. So I'm actually going away for the weekend, so I won't be around. And do you know what? As some fair play, I might even watch the game. Like I say this now, I will be like scrabbling around and watching it on my phone somewhere or whatever. But it is the early kickoff, isn't it? Of course. So look, let's see. Like I do agree with you, Patrick, about kind of getting behind. But the lads in the pitch and all that. You've got to put a shout out to the women as well. They've also got no manager. They're also playing straight after us. They're playing straight after us. So if you are going to the game, hang around and watch them get behind the girls as well, right? Because they absolutely need the support. As well as the guys do, and it's the first time there's a double header there. I think it's the first time there, so it's quite historic on that side of things. Enjoy the Muriel, enjoy getting around your mates and everybody and seeing people and that sort of stuff. It's always a good atmosphere from that point of view. But there is a wider issue here, so I don't blame people for venting their frustrations in their anger and that sort of stuff. And they've got to do what they feel is right. There's protests going on that's in and around a club on Saturday to show their disappointment. I think that's the word. Like, it's really disappointing. We had our best ever start to a Premier League season this year after 11, 12 games. We were third right up until the World Cup break, and then we just dropped down after that disappointing result at home to Newcastle. And yet we're sitting here talking about mid-table. I mean, it's just an utter implosion. So I think there's lots of disappointment, but we need a big reset, and that's coming. It's coming. There's not much more pain left. It's coming. Once we can get the reset, we can understand where we're going. We can start to get behind the team and this fine football club. But it has been tough.
Yeah, it has been indeed.
2-1 out of that lot, by the way. 2-1. Keep changing my mind. I'm going 2-1.
I actually genuinely forgot there was a game going on there for a second. I forgot, we're playing, are we? Jesus, okay. Well, listen, I'm going to say great panel tonight. And as always, it has been a difficult season on last one on Spurs. But we're not going to go anywhere for our sins. We've got lots more to come. This, of course, as we count down to the end of the season. From myself, from Lee, from the wonderful Jess Iszatt, from the brilliant Chris Ostler, from the superb Patrick Tyrant, from the wonderful, magical Mr. McQueen. Guys, we're back with you after Brentford to come, of course, the weekend. As always, keep safe, keep well. And I will say this to you, those going to the game, do what you've got to do for you. And I genuinely mean that. Do what you've got to do for you. As long as it's right, do what you've got to do for you. And as always, please keep safe, keep well, and come on you, Spurs.